Hello everybody and welcome to the Action Figuratorium. My name is Mark Major. I'm a real big toy collector here in the Southeast Portland, and I am doing a bit of an I told you so video, but not because it's time for me to do my typical gloating, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of people love to see, but it's not really about that. It's because I reported on a bunch of news articles months and months ago of what would happen to these companies in the future, specifically Diamond Select Toys. I made a prediction, and also Super7. Both have been in the news because they have been doing layoffs. In the case of Diamond Select Toys, looks like they're just completely shutting down. And so I want to remind people that I am the dumbest guy in the room, right? And if the dumbest guy in the room can see this stuff, okay, then you know that something is afoot with the shill media, and I'm also going to go the extra mile, people. Again, it not make me happy to do this. I'm going to go the extra mile to show you exactly how the shill media comes about. So, everybody, come together as if this was an Anthrax concert, let's say. Strap on the leather and hold on tight. So where to begin, I guess, is the question. Let's start with Diamond Select Toys. So for those of you who need to get caught up, I'm not going to spend a long amount of time on this timeline, but essentially Diamond Select Toys and Diamond Comics distribution both filed for bankruptcy in January of this year. They are separate bankruptcies. They are separate companies, but they're all under sort of one umbrella. And the case was handled in such a way that they took a total of 11 assets that were all kind of bundled together, and they sold them to the highest bidder, right? And now the highest bidder happened to be a couple of companies who got together, pooled their money together, and bought this thing. These companies is called Universal Gaming and Ad Populum. Ad Populum owns NECA, WizKids, Kid Robot. Does anyone remember Kid Robot? It's been a while, I know. And the other company, Universal Gaming, well, they really just wanted Alliance Gaming, which was one of Diamond's subsidiaries that just distributes games, because Universal is a Canadian company and they wanted an American company. So what happened was Universal took Alliance Gaming and they went away their own ways, and then everything else kind of ended up with Ad Populum, i.e. the NECA people. Okay, well, what did they do with it? They went and they shut it all down. They shut down Gentle Giant, which they ended up buying. They shut down Diamond Select Toys, laid everybody off, and they shut down, Diamond Comics distribution. Now, I had told you people in the past that Diamond Comics distribution was already a dead man walking. Why? Because they had lost DC Comics, they lost Marvel Comics, they lost Image Comics, they lost IDW, they lost Boom Studios. What were they distributing? They were distributing some little guys, and that was it. And so they were already done. But Diamond Select Toys is a different kind of dog. However, they're swept under the rug too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what I said would happen back on January 12th of this year, right? And this is how you know exactly, because if I report it, right, you know what I'm saying? This is exactly how we know if someone is lying or not, right? So let's do our typical switch over here. This is the thumbnail for the video. What could happen, Diamond Select, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually listen. I've got it queued up. We're going to listen to my prediction, and you guys tell me how close I am. Here we go. What would a competitor do to Diamond Select? Well, let me tell you what all competitors do when they buy out their competition. They close them down. So that means anybody who's entry level at Diamond Select, gone. Anybody who's mid-level who doesn't have an actual function there, like a guy who's like, without him, you can't, the machine doesn't run, or this guy knows how to do this. Anyone unless they have a special skill, gone. Executives at the top, they will always take the couple top dudes and bring them over and give them jobs. What would a competitor do to Diamond Select? Well, okay, there you have it, folks. Competitors do when they... This is not any kind of like crazy prediction or far-sightedness. This is 100% what happens. A competitor comes in, buys them out. What do? They shut them down. It happens 100% of the time. They take the assets that they want, might be something they're going to use, might not be something good, whatever, and they just throw the rest away, okay? Now, some people are probably going to ask, well, Mark, what do you think is going to happen to like the pre-orders and the orders and all the product in the pipeline, stuff like that? I have no idea, people. I have absolutely no idea. I have no insight. I have no boots on the ground. No one's listening. Don't know anything about it. The only thing I can say about this is that they're going to take all of the brands that they have purchased, which is like Diamond Select Toys itself, Marvel Select, Mini-Mates, Art Asylum, Gentle Giant, and anything else, right? Those are just going to become JPEGs. Those are going to become logos on a portfolio page. That's the only thing I can 100% guarantee, is they're just going to slap the logos on a page. Now, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, when there's some fresh execs come in there and they shuffle people around, someone might say, hey, you know, Bob, I got a great idea. Let's take this brand that we ended up purchasing 5 years ago and let's relaunch it as this. Okay, that might happen, but I don't know about anything else other than the fact that these companies that they purchased are now logos. Okay, let's move on to the second item of business, right? And that is the Super7 thing. Now, you've all probably at some point, if you go out of the house, you've heard about all the shenanigans going on, right? Super7 laid off a whole bunch of people, and of course they put out a press release saying, we laid off people because of the tariffs. And of course, everybody had to weigh in and say, you're lying. It's not because of the tariffs, it's because you're bad business people. Now, I'm going to point you, here we go, to a, check this out. This is the thumbnail for a video that I put out August 24th or 26th, 2024, months ago, people. Many, many months ago. Almost not quite a year, but pretty close. Prediction, toy industry crash. Here is the video itself. It's called Prediction. Will a major toy company go bankrupt? This is something I, the dumbest guy in the room, was talking about. Place bets on Hasbro, Funko, and Super7. And in this video, I went through each of these companies one at a time, and I said, here's what's going on with them. Here's the problems they're facing. This is the woes they are going through. And Super7 was on the list. And in this particular spot in the video, I'm reading from an article on a site called Toy Beast, right? November 2023, Toy Beast. Go look up this article if you want to read it for yourself. In this Toy Beast article, they're talking about the problems that Super7 is having, right? And how they had to get a second round of investor funding. The first round was when they launched in 2001. So this is technically their second round. They got some investors, Newcastle Network, who pumped millions of dollars into them. So guess what? Now Newcastle technically is an owner of the company, right? Because they invested money. And so Newcastle is now going to be calling the shots. And if Newcastle says, hey, we're going to lay off people, we're going to lay off people. But let me tell you this, right? If I predicted that one of these companies was going to go bankrupt in August 2024, right? What do you think this has to do with tariffs? Well, here's what we know about the tariffs. First they came in, then they got bigger, then they got huge, then they got smaller, and it all happened within like a few weeks or months of each other, meaning you didn't know what was going on. If you're a business leader on the ship, right, and you're watching the water get all choppy and becomes tidal waves and then it kind of goes down, and right? You don't know what's going on. You don't just immediately start throwing people in the life rafts, okay? You wait to see what's going on. You do the best maneuvering you can. You bring in stuff if you got to pay the tariffs, but you got things that are sold and it's going to mean money, and you work. It's accounting, people. It's a goddamn accounting, right, that goes on at this point. So clearly, if you're using the excuse of tariffs that happened over like a 2-week period to explain why you have to lay off people, you're lying. You're 100% lying. And a lot of people have made videos calling out Brian Flynn, the guy who is running Super7, as being a liar. And some people have just said that the letter he put out was just poorly put together and that the guy's maybe kind of an idiot. I don't know anything about that. But that is part of the rumors. What people say is that he's just incompetent and he can't even produce a PR letter, right? He needs to have someone probably write it for him. Now, one of the things that is disgusting to me is when these media sites like, and I'm going to say the guy's name, Dan Pickett of Action Figure Insider, who seems to be covering up for Brian Flynn, probably friends at some point because he has access media. By the way, if your name is Action Figure Insider, you're pretty much telling us you're a shill, right? Now, he did his big post on Instagram saying, oh, this is because of tariffs. Why? Well, because that's what Brian Flynn said. And Dan is not a journalist, okay? Dan is a copy and paste artist. He takes a press release and he copy and pastes it. He's been doing it for years. That's all he does. He doesn't do any journalism. Otherwise, he would have known from this article that the dumbest guy in the room talked about in August of 2024 that Super7 was on the rocks, okay? Go to the Toy Beast article. I read from it. It's clear as day that these guys are hurting and they're not going to make it. Everyone knows about this. To use the tariffs is BS, right? But what I want to point out is this is how I know that Dan Pickett is the shill in the room, because if you go to his X account, his Twitter account, and you look at November 14th, 2024, he's making one of these dog whistles. He's telling us, you can find me over here from now on. He is announcing that he's leaving Twitter and going to Blue Sky, which is usually, the people who do this are the people who have what's called Trump derangement system. Now, I'm not saying that you should love Trump. You should not love Trump. Why? He's a part of this oligarchy, aristocratic, millionaire, billionaire ruling class. He's with all of them. If you think he's on your side or not on your side, he's not. He's not fighting for you. He's fighting for him and his gang of goons, right? However, you do not, if you're a real company, a real business, you are on X. You are on Blue Sky. I'm not saying don't go Blue Sky. You're on Twitter, right? You're on Threads. You're on Instagram. Maybe you even have a Tumblr account. Maybe you have a Facebook page. You're on all these, but you don't virtue signal to people and say, I'm a fucking baby. I'm going to leave X and go to Blue Sky. You know who does that? Fucking babies do that. And this is what tells me that this guy has got some kind of Trump derangement system, and he's the first chance to write about tariffs hurting a company, right? But here's the funny thing was that, and give me a second here to find it, people. This is going to take a second because I feel that like you get close to target on some of this stuff, and you can't help but mention it because these are all signs that something is not going right. Okay, here we go. Cutting over. So this is the Instagram account of Laser Pants. He's a guy, good guy, runs a fantastic podcast called the 3POA, 3 Points of Articulation podcast. He posted on Instagram something that an ex-employee did where he called out Brian Flynn saying, no, actually the layoffs were started months ago, long before the tariffs, dude, and you claiming tariffs is behind it. Anyways, I went so far as to call out Action Figure Insider because I feel that they're shill media at this point and you can't trust them. He decides to pen something back to me, and I'm not going to read it because but it's this thing on the side here. I don't know if you can see where my, look at all this, look at all that response, right? Who does that? Who has a kind of baby fit, right? If you are a righteous person and you're going forward in life, you don't need to even reply to people. I didn't reply to him because why would I reply to baby talk? Baby talk doesn't make any sense to me. So clearly these people are, Brian Flynn is a liar. I pointed it out because I covered this last year, how these guys are on the rocks. And these companies and or these websites, these media sites like Action Figure Insider and probably some other people where Brian Flynn is cozy with them, the sort of the ex-Foosh guys. Get rid of these guys. They're lying to you and you don't need them, and they're bad karma for everybody, and they're part of the old guard and it's time for them to go. And guess what? They can take Super7 with them. They can take Funko with them, and fuck it, they can take Hasbro with them. We don't need any of these. We've got plenty of new toy companies that are great. In fact, stop giving your money to any of those three companies. We've got them on the ropes, people. Super7 is almost dead. Let's kill Super7 off and get rid of it. Nobody likes it. Everybody hates it. We're all better off if the factories were producing something else. Put your money into indie. I have a message. Put it into indie. Put it into the indie companies. There's a lot of companies out there that would love to have your money. I cover these companies on my Kickstarter analysis. There's an entire playlist called Crowdfunds and Kickstarters on this channel you can check out. All of those companies are worthy of your love and your attention and the market share. Stop giving it to these three and stop reading the garbage of the old legacy garbage insider media, because it's garbage. Okay, that's all I've got for today. This rant is over. Thanks to everybody who made it this far into the video. I do appreciate it. The liking, the subscribing, it all goes on in your own time. In the meantime, stay charged, people.